Okay. Good evening, Paul, and thank you for joining me today. And it's so nice to see you a week before Christmas.
Yes.
But you take on emotions of other people, and you actually own them as if they were your own. So you're like a thermometer when it comes to around other people's emotions. Is that what we're?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Great. Can you describe a recent situation where you absorbed other people's emotions?
Yeah. Friday night with my husband.
Okay.
He opened up an app and it said something that was not to his liking. And it was an app that we've been doing a challenge together. It's a walking challenge. And so it increased his steps. And so I felt responsible for it being increased. And then I went on the rescue mission to try and find the answer to change it so that it went back to what it was.
I see.
And that didn't happen because it's 1,000 more steps than what the maximum is 1,000 more than what we're used to attaining each day. And so I don't remember what it was, but I took it on. So at one point I was the victim. At one point I was the rescuer. And to end it off, I was the persecutor.
Okay.
And I stomped off and went to bed. And he stomped off and did his own thing.
Okay. All righty. So what emotion did you take on? I heard you take on an action. What emotion did you take on? One of frustration or upset?
First was it would have been frustration, but I think there was more to it. I have a hard time identifying emotions. So I
Yeah.
have to pull up a sheet that tells me what my emotions are.
Yeah.
So I would say annoyed would be one of them, frustrated, and then moving into discouraged and then moving towards distant. So separating myself.
And you felt that you were mirroring his emotions and took them on as yourself. Okay. Great. Excellent. Just off topic a little bit. I admire you for looking up emotions because oftentimes we don't have language to identify these experiences, and they're hard to identify, even though we grasp at things and label ourselves. And oftentimes we label ourselves incorrectly because we're not investigating the experience itself and trying to associate different words that might closely identify the experience that we're actually having. So kudos to you for doing that, Paula. Good for you. The experience was your husband looked up an exercise app that you and him are connected to, and we're doing a walking exercise. He was surprised to see his steps increased, and he made some accusation, or he felt frustrated, annoyed, and so on. And
Expectations.
uh, got it, got it. And you took that on as you call it, as a victim.
I
Uh,
took on first the rescuer because I
okay,
wanted to solve the problem for him. So I was searching the app to see if there was a way because at some point I thought I remembered that there was a way to change it. But when I went and looked at it, the maximum is 7,000 steps and we do 6,000. So his thing is, I can't do that. But on average, he walks 10,000 steps a day. So it's one day isn't going to kill you. So that's where my persecutor comes in. I want to say, just grow up. Like, it's only an app. I'm just going to delete it. Overreacting. And so there's this, I can hear it in him, the distorted thinking. I know I do it too. So I can't point my finger at him because I've got to turn around and point it at myself at the same time because I know I do it. And learning to understand emotions and learning to be aware of the distorted thinking, like the catastrophizing, exaggerating, perfectionism,
Yeah.
any of those things that
Yeah.
I didn't, I've never, no, that's not the right word. I hadn't learned those ways to cope with those things.
Right. Good. Excellent. Excellent. So how does it typically feel when you take on other people's feelings in your body and your mind? Can you just describe that?
It's the responsibility. I feel responsible.
Mm.
I take on that responsibility because I am overly responsible, because I don't want to be responsible for my own crap. So I'll be responsible for everybody else's. I was trying to find something here. I have this wonderful book that I know where things are most of the time, but it's not jumping out at me.
Yeah. So
There's a couple of things that I do, and it's to be able to, I think the word is differentiate.
Okay.
So he can have his feelings, and I
Yeah.
don't have to take them on.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Great. Great. So you see that as a possibility for yourself.
I do. I
Yeah.
just, it's hard work when you're so embedded in it and breaking the patterns and the behavior.
Yeah. Got it. So the typical the pattern, the way you feel is you're over responsible and you go through the cycles of trying to fix things, and then you end up feeling like a persecutor because you get angry, and all these emotions pop up around you. And the consequence of that, it deteriorates your mental health and your well-being. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. Have you noticed any patterns or common triggers when you start accepting other feelings other than your own? Any particular trigger or cue that you can identify with at this moment?
I think the main thing, because it's usually triggered by something he does. And I have an expectation too of it should be this way. And that for me, it's because I have a little bit of understanding of emotional sobriety is, or emotional immaturity is, and that's where I'm at, is you, others have to be a certain way for me to be okay. Where I know in emotional sobriety, I don't need you to be a certain way to be okay, because I can be okay myself.
Yes. And you
But
see that as a possibility.
I want it to be a possibility.
Yeah.
I don't seem to be grasping the concept of how to break the pattern.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Because you are very insightful around what's happening. You're able to put structure to it and identify what the challenge is, and that you're able to identify that you're actually taking on other people's emotions. So those are all wonderful things that you've identified. So that's an open awareness of these experiences. So you're certainly along the trail of breaking up the old pattern and old behaviors. So this is good. This is good. Any common triggers? Have you been able to identify them? Is it a tone? Is it words? Is it?
Oh, the tone, absolutely a tone. It'll set me off for sure.
And what's that tone like?
I hear it as you messed up.
Meaning you. You're the
Meaning
target.
me. Yeah, that's what I hear. I
Okay.
messed up. It's my fault.
Okay.
I screwed up.
Okay.
I know it's my story, but that's what I hear.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. All right. The tone is trigger, and you hear it as almost like an accusatory thing for you, and you take it personally. and you respond in an emotional response kind of thing. So that's a good trigger to know. Tone and the way you hear it. So those are two very important things. Is there anything else in your body that happens that you respond to this?
Everything I hold right here in the back of my traps is just, that's where everything is. There's other times where my heart gets tight.
Yes.
And heat usually sometimes comes across more so in the anger component.
Okay. So we have a trigger as well as tone, but anger. So, yeah. Okay, good. It hits you in the back around your shoulders and it gets tense. Is that the idea?
I'm always tense.
Okay.
No, I shouldn't say always. That's all or nothing thinking.
Yeah.
I am usually tense.
Yes.
Yeah, because that's where I hold everything.
Yeah. Are you tense now?
A little.
Okay. All right. Just as a sidebar here, could you just allow your shoulders to drop?
Yeah, I have to go into meditation for that one.
Oh, just demand it from your muscles, just to drop your shoulders so that the tension doesn't get any worse, and maybe it might just get better. That's one of the things we want to talk about leading up to taking on someone's emotion, is releasing your physical triggers so it doesn't increase in the process, which ends up with the outcome that you're experiencing that's taking on other people's emotions. What we want to do is identify it as early on, leading up to it. And what we want to do is somehow help us ease it away. And the way to do that, of course, is in the beginning, not when you're actually experiencing it. That's much more difficult. So good. When you notice you're tense, just let go and let your shoulders drop. Okay. Have you noticed any other patterns or triggers to start accepting others' feelings as well as your own? Is there any other types of relationships you have?
I let people talk, and I don't feel comfortable interrupting. If I'm on the phone with somebody and they're complaining, I just let them go. Although I did Friday night. Oh, maybe that was the trigger for me Friday night. I had a call where somebody was almost whining about everything in their life. And I'd actually set a boundary with them. And I said, I'm going to stop you right there, because they were talking about somebody else who I don't know. And it didn't matter that I knew the story. So I stopped them. But it's still that feeling like a doormat. And I think that might have been part of the trigger for me coming up and then hearing my husband continue that complaint.
Got it. So you're on the phone with this person, they were complaining, but you did set a boundary and say that's enough of that.
It was like going on and gossip. And so it's like, I don't need to know their story. I don't need to know the circumstances or the situation, because it wasn't about me and it wasn't about her.
Right. So you left the phone call still owning those emotions, though, from what I'm hearing.
I think so.
Okay, good. That's good. Good to start to realize what's happening here. So that oversensitized you to what happened next. Would you say that's true? Or possibly?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then the word that's coming up for me is codependent.
Yes.
My husband and I are I'm learning what codependency is, and I don't know that he quite knows what that is.
Oh,
But he is willing to do some YouTube videos with me that I found that are very helpful.
okay. So describe to me what you mean by codependency, if you would.
For him, I see it that he can't live without me. He'd be lost. And he says that. And the fact that we are not differentiated. So if I'm upset, he's upset. If he's upset, I'm upset.
Mm.
But if I'm in a good mood and he comes home upset, I take on that funky mood because he's had a bad day. And
Right.
or I feel like I'm the doormat where I'm just dumped on. And I
Okay.
get that sometimes you need to talk to release things out. But when I'm not emotionally available myself, then that's another part of taking on more than I can handle.
In those moments, Paula, do you have any vocabulary around how to be forthright about your feelings?
No, because I fear the reaction of the pout and stonewalling. And I'll do the same thing. The fight, flight, and freeze or fawn. I'm very good at all of them, and he's very good at all of them.
Okay, good. All right. You do have, right now we're talking about your partner relationship and the situation described very well. And also you notice that you'll take on people's emotions if they're negative and you don't want to interrupt them. You feel obligated to listen to them. And finally you set a boundary. It's Friday, but you carried with you your emotions, which sensitized you to the husband, to your husband's, would you say, ranting?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. How do you think this tendency affects your daily life and relationships? Can you describe that to me?
I tend to isolate, withdraw,
Mm,
and stuff my emotions with
okay.
food.
Wow, okay. Excellent. The
Why is
reason,
that excellent? I don't get
well,
that.
okay, so let me tell you why. First of all, you need to be aware, and you are acutely aware. That's what's excellent about it. I'm not suggesting that the behavior is excellent, but when you have that kind of open awareness and you have that kind of insight, you're much closer to resolving it than someone who's unconsciously incompetent about it. They're not reflecting on it at all. They don't even know this area of life even exists.
Mm.
But you do. And not only do you know that it exists, you're very articulate in what happens. So I think this is marvelous. Congratulations on an accomplishment.
Thank you.
Okay, what are the most challenging aspects in dealing with the issue for you? What do you see as the obstacles?
Me.
Okay.
There is this component of me that takes over and forgets everything I've learned or understand or know.
Mm,
It's like totally forget it. I have a pattern. I'm real good in the morning. I get up and I do my morning routine and I go about my day, and then the afternoon comes and it's like I totally forgot about everything that I
mm,
had intentions to do or things that I am working on not doing.
mm.
And it's like a total blank. Like
So you shut down?
I would call it unconscious. I go unconscious at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Sounds like your willpower is depleted by that time. You probably try to do so much before that, you just don't have the energy to sustain it in the afternoon or evening.
Yeah.
Is that a fair statement?
Yeah. And boredom plays a big component.
Low boredom?
Yeah.
Oh, can you tell me more about that?
About boredom,
Yeah.
I check out playing games.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, good. We understand the tendency that affects your daily life. We've had some of the most challenging aspects to you is you check out and become unconscious and you forget about everything you know or learned or what you're attempting to practice. Is that fair? Okay. Why do you think you might be susceptible by taking on others' emotions?
Why do I think I'm susceptible?
Yes.
My upbringing.
Okay.
There's
Anything else?
a component of independence. I was a latchkey kid at 8 years old. And so basically from that time on, I feel like I took care of. That's not a feeling, that's a thought. The thought is I had to take care of myself from that point on. So that's where the responsibility comes in, the independence, the the pride, because yeah, you can't ask anybody for help because you've got to, if you don't know it, then don't bother asking somebody. So there's all those defaults that I perceived as a child.
Okay. So because of your youth, you took on independence and other people you took care of when you're very young, and that's growing into being and worrying or concerned about other people around you. And
More of how they feel. I don't want them, I don't do well with conflict, so I don't want them to be upset with me.
yes,
And so I
yes.
will avoid conflict at all costs.
Okay, okay. How do you differentiate between your emotions and those you pick up from others?
I don't know that I have done that yet.
Okay. So
I was
sometimes,
aware after the fact on Friday, but not while I was in it.
okay. So the question really is in identifying what's really going on or what's going on in this particular moment. There's a possibility that you're identifying with the emotions because those emotions exist in you. And it's not about transferring the emotions from one to the other, although it could be. So it's a good practice to start to see, am I identifying with these emotions that the other person has? And that's why they're coming up for me. Or in fact, I am so codependent that I am taking on other people's emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And to start to open that up as well might be helpful for you.
Yeah, hearing that, I think of the pause, but I don't remember to do the pause in that moment.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. So let's just continue on and we'll go back and have a plan of action. So, what strategies have you tried in the past to manage this challenge for yourself? Is there anything?
I don't know that I have. I'm only
Ah,
just starting to become aware of it. And
okay.
that's why, especially Friday night, really opened my eyes of
Okay.
recognizing that I do it.
Okay. All right. So this is just a brand new thing that's opening up. You're on your journey, and this is something new that's come up, and you start to recognize that it's really you're becoming more insightful around your relationships and how you're feeling. I also like what you distinguished earlier on. Is this a thought? Is this a feeling? So you're investigating these things to try to sort them out. Doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be successful with it, by the way. But what you're doing, you're putting good structure in place so you can start identifying things as they exist. But also, we don't want to conclude too much either, be absolute in what we're experiencing because language fails us so often, Paula. You want to wear it like a loose garment kind of thing. This is what I think it is. It was my experience, and this is what occurs to me. You want to use kind of language like that rather than absolute narrow, conclusive language as if it is a truth. Because none of us really, I don't think, really know exactly how, how we're actually experiencing the experience we're having. There's just the language is an estimate of it. So good. So you're just starting on that journey. So you're just from Friday night alone, just starting there. Can you think about how you do some things differently?
Yeah, I have a part of it written down. So part of it, as the rescuer, instead of having to be right, is to facilitate self-empowerment. And so in that instance, it's coach instead of rescue. And then for the person is to challenge instead and provoke to take action. And for like my husband to take action, not for me to do the action. And then as the victim, and the victim for me was the fear of the reaction. And in that instance, turning to a power greater than myself instead of being the victim and claim my personal power. And so I suggested a couple of ways to navigate that. One's a video series, one is practice communication skills, and then the other one is work on setting boundaries.
Okay, good. You said a whole bunch of things in there. My goodness, some wonderful thing. So, coaching. What are the other highlights, Paula?
The video series is on how to process emotions,
Okay.
and the communication skills are using a program that I'm just about finishing up called Conflict Cure.
Okay.
And then applying what I learned in the Boundaries Masterclass.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You have got a framework for solutions. What I'm hearing that they could be in more detail for you, some of them, to have a working plan that what to do next in the next moment kind of thing. So it's very specific. So I thought your idea, the communication thing is just absolutely perfect, wonderful. Coaching versus, what was the other word you used? Coaching versus?
Coaching versus persecution, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
No, coaching instead of rescuing,
Okay.
challenge instead of persecute, and a higher power instead of being a victim.
So how would you coach?
In the instance for Friday night, I want to tell him what to do, but that's not coaching. Which would be, I think you could look up how to change that, because I'm pretty sure that that is a possibility.
Okay.
So making him responsible instead of me responsible.
Okay.
Or I could have said, have you tried? Have you tried to see if that can be changed?
Okay. Good. All right. All right. You're well on your way, Paula. So what can we do as an action plan for next week? What could you be willing to take on and practice this week? One of those things, not all of them, of course, but just one of those things.
I think it's the processing emotions and talking about it. So being able to talk about feelings with my husband,
Okay.
that I think is the shift
Okay.
instead of our thoughts.
Okay. And how would you start that conversation off?
Well, he's already agreed to do the emotions, how to process your emotions videos things.
Oh.
So actually, we're supposed to do it tonight. So maybe when I'm off the call, that's, I think, 15, 16 minutes. And then we can watch it and then have some discussion
Okay.
about it.
All right. And this conversation you're planning to have, if there is any disagreement between the two of you, how would you manage that?
I would probably flee, which
Okay.
is my normal response,
Right.
is to breathe,
Good.
collect my thoughts,
Yes.
and use I feel, when, because, what I need. the, I think you call it nonviolent,
Yes.
and I understand it as assertive communication, assertiveness
Okay.
template.
Okay. All right. So you have a rough plan, and hopefully that doesn't occur. But now you have a plan to avoid the temptation of fleeing or becoming isolated.
Yeah, and not having any expectations.
Okay, and no expectations.
Yeah, that's
And
really hard.
okay. So when we say we're having no expectation, what are you going to be paying attention to?
How I'm feeling,
Okay.
what reactions are happening in my body.
Yes.
So being present with myself and not get caught up in his demeanor.
Okay, good. Good. So in some sense, what you're going to be paying attention to is the progress in which you're making to having a conversation which you don't normally have, and the willingness to stay in the conversation even if disagreement happens. And that would be a wonderful success for you, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Right. Regardless of the outcome. Beautiful.
Yes.
Now, you got such a comprehensive plan in front of you. It may take 2 or 3 or 4 months even to accomplish all those things. But if you can just stick to one thing, I don't know, for as long as
And
you,
I've learned not to rush things, because if I
okay,
try and do too much, I get overwhelmed. Then I stop, and then I'm in the stuck mode where it leads to just not doing anything.
okay, excellent. So do you feel empowered to do this week?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you for joining me tonight. I appreciate it. And I really enjoyed your insights and your action plan, Paul. I think you're going to find a new grounding for emotional freedom in all of this. You are, because you're so darn close and identifying the experiences you're having, and you have solutions to put into practice. Uh, what all that needs to happen actually is to follow through on those practices which you've identified. They're
That's the
very.
key. Follow through.
I'm here to help you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Paula. All right, very good, Paula. You continue to impress the heck out of me, I'll tell you. You're doing such a good job.
I know it intellectually. I got to get it out of here and get it into here.
Yeah, and you will practice. That's what it is. It's just practice. Yeah, that's so wonderful.
Thank you.
Anything else you'd like to talk about?
Now, I was going to ask you about sponsoring.
Yeah. Okay. What?
I don't know. I need somebody who's got strong recovery, and I don't feel it from my OA sponsor, and I'm struggling. I'm in the food. I have been in the food
Okay.
for about a week now.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
I don't know what's missing. I'm going to the OA birthday party in LA